Have you ever had the feeling that life, once a vibrant and sprawling landscape, has begun to quietly shrink? It's not a dramatic event, not a sudden closing of doors, but a subtle, creeping sensation. The path from the bedroom to the kitchen to the armchair feels a little more worn. The conversations a little more repetitive. The view from the window a little more familiar and perhaps a little less exciting. If you find yourself anywhere between the ages of 65 and 80, this feeling might resonate more than you'd care to admit. This isn't about the inevitable march of time, but about something far more controllable: the invisible habits, the seemingly harmless routines, and the quiet assumptions that we, as we grow older, can unknowingly adopt. Today, we're not going to talk about the usual advice you've heard 100 times over. Eat your vegetables, get more exercise, see your doctor. While that is all critically important, we are going to dive much deeper. We are going to shine a light into the forgotten corners of our daily lives and expose 5 profoundly common, yet surprisingly destructive things that many seniors do. These are the subtle behaviors that can quietly sabotage our golden years, stealing our joy, eroding our independence, and clouding our peace of mind. I say this not from a place of judgment, but from a place of deep respect and a desire to empower. You've lived through decades of change, triumph, and turmoil. You have earned a life filled with dignity, connection, and vitality. This is your wake-up call, an invitation to take back the reins and steer your life away from quiet regret and toward conscious, joyful living. So, if you've ever wondered what simple choices might be costing you the richness you deserve, stick with me. What you are about to learn could fundamentally change the way you experience the years ahead. Trust me when I say, the final point is one that almost everyone overlooks, yet it may be the most crucial of all. Let's begin with one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry, often for decades, without ever realizing its true weight. I'm talking about the stubborn act of clinging to old grudges. In every life, there are moments of betrayal, disappointment, and hurt. A family feud over an inheritance that splintered siblings 30 years ago. A friend whose careless words cut deeper than a knife. A neighbor's thoughtless action that planted a seed of resentment. We tell ourselves we have a right to be angry, a right to hold on to that pain. And perhaps, on some level, we do. But here lies a devastating truth. The person who hurt you has likely moved on. They may not even remember the incident that plays on a loop in your mind. The only person still imprisoned by that moment is you. Think of bitterness not as a memory, but as a slow-acting poison you willingly ingest every day. It doesn't harm the person who wronged you. It corrupts you from the inside out. It seeps into your heart, turning potential moments of joy into occasions for cynicism. It colors your conversations, making you the person who always brings up the past, who can't seem to find the good in the present. Physiologically, this emotional toxin takes a measurable toll. Chronic anger and resentment keep your body in a constant state of high alert, flooding your system with stress hormones like cortisol. This perpetual fight or flight mode can lead to increased inflammation, high blood pressure, and a weakened immune system, making you more vulnerable to the very health issues we all hope to avoid in our later years. It's like dragging a massive, unseen suitcase behind you everywhere you go. Inside that suitcase are all the replays of the argument, all the what-ifs, all the unspoken retorts. At first, you manage the weight. But after 20, 30, or 40 years, that suitcase has become so heavy that you can no longer appreciate the journey. The sheer energy required to keep dragging it forward robs you of the energy you could be using to heal, to laugh, to connect with the people who are here for you now, and to truly enjoy the precious time you have left. Have you ever found yourself replaying an old hurt in your mind, feeling that familiar surge of anger or sadness? If so, you know exactly the weight I'm talking about. Share your experience in the comments below if you feel comfortable. You might find you're not alone in carrying that burden. I once spoke with a man named Walter, a sharp and proud 79-year-old from Oregon. He hadn't spoken to his only sister in over 3 decades. The fallout was over their parents' will, a classic and tragic story of grief mixed with misunderstanding and pride. When I gently asked him if he ever missed her, his eyes welled up and he confessed, every single day. But his pride, that stubborn and fragile shield, had become a fortress he couldn't bring himself to leave. He felt that reaching out would be an admission of fault, a surrender. After a long conversation about what he was truly losing, not the argument, but a lifetime of shared memories and future moments with his sister, he finally made the call. He told me later that his hand was shaking so badly he could barely dial the number. The conversation that followed wasn't about solving their differences. It was halting and awkward at first, but then it opened up. They cried, they laughed about a silly childhood memory. They said the things that desperately needed to be said. I'm sorry, and I miss you. Walter described the feeling afterward as if a physical weight had been lifted from his chest. I feel lighter than I have in years, he said, his voice thick with emotion. He hadn't just reconnected with his sister. He had reconnected with a part of himself he thought was lost forever. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood concepts. It does not mean you are condoning what happened. It does not mean you have to forget the pain or trust that person again. Forgiveness is a declaration of personal freedom. It is the conscious decision that your inner peace is more valuable than your attachment to being right. It is you standing at the gate of your own emotional prison, choosing to unlock it and walk away, even if the other person remains behind. You can forgive someone entirely in the quiet of your own heart, without ever speaking to them again, and still be set free. Let go, not for them, but for you. You have carried that weight long enough. It is time to put it down and walk forward with a lighter step. The second habit that quietly diminishes the lives of so many older adults is the slow, almost imperceptible surrender of one's own appearance. It often begins with a simple, tired thought. Why bother? Why bother styling my hair when I'm just staying home? Why bother wearing the nice clothes in my closet when these old sweatpants are more comfortable? Why bother with a splash of cologne or a touch of lipstick when there's no one to impress? This line of thinking, disguised as practicality, is a dangerous trap. The moment you stop caring about how you present yourself to the world is often the moment you begin to give up on your place in it. This has absolutely nothing to do with chasing lost youth or trying to look like you're 30 again. It is not about vanity. It is about dignity. It is about self-respect. It's a daily ritual that communicates a powerful message to your own subconscious mind. When you look in the mirror in the morning and see a person who is clean, well-groomed, and put together in a way that feels good to you, you are sending a signal to your brain. I am still here. I matter. I am worth the effort. That internal validation becomes increasingly vital as the years go by, and external sources of validation, like a career or raising a family, fade into the past. Think about the psychological lift that comes from small acts of self-care. The feeling of a fresh haircut, the confidence that comes from wearing your favorite shirt, the simple pleasure of moisturizing your skin after a warm shower. These are not frivolous acts, they are acts of vitality. They are physical manifestations of the belief that you are still an active participant in life, not just a passive observer. This internal feeling has a direct impact on your external reality. It affects your posture, the way you carry yourself.
It boosts your confidence, making you more likely to engage with others, to say yes to an invitation for coffee, or to simply go for a walk in the park with your head held high.
I remember a lovely woman named Gloria, a 76-year-old from Florida who had lost her husband a few years prior. She confessed to me that she hadn't worn lipstick in years. It just didn't seem important anymore, she said with a shrug. In her mind, lipstick was for going out, for special occasions, for her husband. With him gone, the ritual felt pointless. A dear friend, sensing Gloria's retreat from the world, gently convinced her to visit a makeup counter one afternoon. Hesitantly, Gloria allowed the clerk to help her find a shade of coral she used to love. As she applied it and looked at her reflection, her entire face lit up. It wasn't just the color, it was the recognition, a flicker of the vibrant woman she had always been. "I didn't realize how much I missed myself," she whispered, her eyes shining. That one small tube of lipstick was a catalyst. It reminded her that she was still Gloria, still beautiful, still full of life, still worthy of her own attention. It was the first step in a journey of reclaiming her presence. Soon, she was getting her hair done regularly again, wearing the colorful scarves she'd always loved, and joining a local book club. She wasn't doing it for anyone else. She was doing it for the woman in the mirror. Neglecting your appearance is a slippery slope that often leads to social isolation, a low mood, and a pervasive sense of fading into the background. But taking even small, deliberate steps to care for how you look is an act of defiance against invisibility. It brings you back into the light. It tells the world, and more importantly, it tells yourself that you are still in the game. So take pride in your appearance. Wear the colors that lift your spirits. Trim that beard. Put on those handsome cufflinks or that elegant pair of earrings. Do it not to impress anyone, but to honor the incredible, resilient, and valuable person you are and the rich life you are still living. Now, let's move to a behavior that can be incredibly alienating, yet often stems from a place of fear: the need to always be right. As we get older, it can sometimes feel like our experience is being discounted. Younger generations seem to speak a different language, technology moves at a dizzying pace, and it's easy to feel that our hard-won wisdom is no longer valued. A common and deeply human reaction to this feeling is to double down. We correct people mid-sentence. We shut down opposing viewpoints before they're fully formed. We insist that our way, the way we've always done it, is the only correct way. But this defensive posture doesn't earn us respect. It makes us difficult to be around. The profound truth is that genuine wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing which questions to ask. It's about understanding that the world is in a constant state of flux and that there is always, always more to learn. When you cling too tightly to the need to be right, you are slamming a door on new conversations, fresh perspectives, and your own personal growth. And perhaps most tragically, you are pushing away the very people you love most, often without even realizing it. Your children, your grandchildren, your friends, they stop engaging, not because they think you're wrong, but because they know a conversation with you will inevitably turn into a lecture or a debate. It's simply exhausting trying to connect with someone who refuses to budge. There is nothing wrong with having strong, well-formed opinions. Your decades of life experience are an invaluable asset, and your voice absolutely deserves to be heard. The problem arises when every single interaction becomes a battle for intellectual supremacy. Life is not a courtroom where you must win every case. It's a living room, a dinner table, a garden, where connection, not correction, should be the goal. I once knew a man named Harold, 81 years old, sharp as a tack, but profoundly lonely. His daughter confided in me. "Dad is brilliant, truly, but he has to win every single conversation. If I mention a new restaurant I like, he'll tell me why another one is better.
If my son tries to explain how his new software works, Dad will interrupt to explain the right way to think about it. Over time, Harold's friends stopped calling to chat. His grandkids started making excuses to avoid his phone calls. He couldn't understand why his world had become so quiet. The change came when his daughter, in a moment of loving honesty, told him how his need to be right made her feel. Small and unheard. It was a difficult pill to swallow, but Harold was wise enough to reflect on it. He began to practice a new skill: listening. He started asking questions instead of providing answers. He let his grandson teach him something about his phone, even though he secretly thought he knew a better way. The transformation was miraculous. Laughter returned to their conversations. The phone started ringing again. He hadn't changed his mind about everything, but he had opened his heart, and that made all the difference. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation biting your tongue to keep from correcting someone? Or perhaps you've been on the receiving end of it. Think about how it feels. Let me know in the comments which side of that experience you relate to more. Being wise doesn't mean correcting everyone around you. It means having the grace to let some things slide for the sake of harmony. It means allowing others the space to share their own thoughts, even if you disagree. Humility is a quiet, profound form of strength, and it becomes more and more powerful with age. Let go of the desperate need to be right all the time. Choose connection over correction. You will find that people don't just tolerate being near you, they actively seek out your company, drawn not to the vastness of your knowledge, but to the warmth of your heart.
This leads us directly to our fourth point, a habit that acts like a slow-acting sedative for the soul, refusing to try new things. As the decades pass, it is incredibly easy to fall into the deep, comfortable grooves of routine. We eat the same handful of meals, watch the same news channel, drive the same routes, and perhaps talk to the same few people, if any at all. While there is a certain comfort in familiarity, when that familiarity becomes a rigid, unbreachable wall, it quietly begins to drain the life out of you. This refusal to embrace novelty is one of the most underrated mistakes older adults make, a silent shrinking of one's own world that often goes unnoticed until life feels small and gray. Life does not suddenly stop being interesting after 65 or 70. In fact, for many, this stage of life offers an unprecedented level of freedom. There's no boss to report to, no young children demanding constant attention, no societal pressure to keep up with the Joneses. It is the perfect time for exploration. But if you stop exploring, you start atrophying. Your world gets smaller, your conversational topics become more repetitive, and most importantly, your mind becomes less agile. Science has shown us the incredible power of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. Think of your brain like a dense forest. Sticking to the same old routine is like walking the same single path every day. The path becomes deep and easy to follow, but the rest of the forest remains unexplored and overgrown. Trying something new is like forging a new trail. It's challenging at first, but it creates new pathways, new connections. It keeps the entire forest healthy and accessible. When you challenge your brain, whether with a new skill, a new idea, or a new environment, you are literally keeping it younger and more resilient. If you're still with me and finding this information helpful, let me know by commenting with the number 4 below. Your engagement is a huge encouragement and helps our channel reach and help more people. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. New experiences don't have to be grand, expensive, or intimidating. It could be as simple as trying a new recipe from a cuisine you've never tasted. It could be downloading a podcast app on your phone and listening to a show about history or astronomy. It could mean taking a different route on your daily walk just to see the world from a new angle.
It could be signing up for that watercolor class at the local community center you've been eyeing for years, or joining a group that meets for coffee once a week just to discuss current events. The point isn't what you do, it's the simple, powerful act of doing something different. Let me tell you about Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s living in a quiet suburb of Chicago. For her entire life, she had proudly resisted technology. "That's for young people," she'd say dismissively. Her grandson, wanting to stay connected, gifted her a simple tablet and offered to teach her how to use it. For weeks, it sat in its box, a symbol of a world she felt had left her behind. But one lonely afternoon, driven by boredom and a flicker of curiosity, she opened it. With her grandson's patient guidance over the phone, she learned to tap and swipe. A few months later, Eleanor was a pro. She was video calling her old high school friends who had moved across the country, ordering her groceries online for delivery, and delighting her family with daily photos of the birds in her backyard. "It's made me feel alive again," she told me. It wasn't the tablet itself that was special, it was the fact that she had proved to herself that she could still learn, still grow, still adapt. She broke through her own self-imposed limitation.
You are never too old to be a beginner. The moment you say the words, "I don't do that," you are drawing a line in the sand, a boundary around your own life. Over time, that boundary can become a cage. Be brave enough to open the door. Say yes to something unfamiliar, not because you have to, but because you can. You are still here, and that means life still has new, wonderful things to offer you. Finally, we arrive at the fifth and perhaps most insidious habit, one rooted in a lifetime of strength and self-reliance, acting like you don't need help. This is one of the most dangerous things a person over 65 can do. It's a quiet form of self-sabotage, often disguised as pride, a fear of being a burden, or a simple refusal to acknowledge the natural changes that come with age. Too many seniors suffer in silence, believing that asking for help is an admission of weakness, a surrender of their hard-won independence. But let me be unequivocally clear. Refusing help isn't strength. It's a gamble you can't afford to lose. You have lived a long and capable life. You've likely raised children, managed a household, excelled in a career, survived loss, and overcome countless challenges. You are the very definition of resilience. But that resilience has earned you the right to lean on others when you need to, not the obligation to face every new challenge alone. Yet a pervasive myth persists that needing help means you have somehow failed. So people hide new and worrying symptoms from their doctors. They climb shaky ladders to clean the gutters, just like they did 20 years ago. They continue to drive at night, even when their vision is fading. They insist on carrying heavy bags of groceries up the stairs, even as their knees scream in protest. And all too often, this stubborn independence ends in a preventable fall, a serious health setback, or a period of intense and avoidable stress. Asking for help is not giving up, it is taking control. It is a strategic and intelligent act. It demonstrates that you care enough about yourself and about the people who love you to stay safe, healthy, and connected. You are not a burden to your family and friends. You are a beloved and central part of their lives. Allowing them to support you doesn't diminish your independence. In a very real way, it strengthens it by keeping you engaged and secure. There's another crucial layer to this that most people miss. When you consistently reject offers of help, you rob others of the profound human need to feel useful and to express their love through action. Think about that for a moment. Your daughter who offers to do your weekly shopping isn't just trying to save you a trip. She's trying to show you she cares. Your neighbor who offers to rake your leaves is building a bond of community. Your grandson who wants to help you set up your new TV is looking for a way to connect with you. Saying yes
Thank you is not just an acceptance of a task, it's an acceptance of their love. It builds bridges of reciprocity and warmth.
Take my friend Jim, for example. At 74, he was a classic do-it-yourselfer, a man who had built his own deck and fixed every leaky faucet in his house for 50 years. Last autumn, after a minor but terrifying slip from a stepladder, he finally swallowed his pride. He called his nephew and asked for help cleaning out the gutters. Not only did they get the job done safely in an afternoon, but they ended up going out for lunch afterward. They talked for 2 hours about everything from old family stories to the nephew's challenges at work. That simple, difficult yes to help turned a chore into a cherished memory. It reinforced their bond and reminded them both that we are not meant to navigate this life entirely alone. You have proven your strength 1,000 times over. Now it is time to prove your wisdom. Know when to say, yes, I could use a hand. It doesn't make you less, it makes you more human, more open, and more deeply connected to the beautiful web of people who surround you. As we reach the end of our conversation today, it's clear that at this stage of life, you have earned more than just comfort and rest. You have earned clarity. And sometimes achieving that clarity requires us to pause and notice the things we've been doing out of sheer habit, out of fear, or out of a stubbornness we no longer need. Each of the 5 points we've explored, letting go of grudges, caring for our appearance, relinquishing the need to be right, embracing new experiences, and accepting help, may seem small on its own. But when they pile up, they collectively shape the quality of the life you wake up to every single morning. They determine whether your world feels expansive and full of possibility, or small and confined. If you are between 65 and 80, or any age for that matter, it is never too late to shift gears. In fact, this may be the most powerful time in your life to do so. Getting older does not mean you are set in your ways. It means you have accumulated a lifetime of wisdom, and the very essence of wisdom is the ability to reflect, to adapt, and to continue to grow. So when we talk about quitting these self-limiting habits, we are not pointing fingers or assigning blame. We are simply shining a light, a gentle but illuminating light, on those patterns that quietly steal your energy, your confidence, and your joy. Once you can see them clearly, you gain the power to do something about them. We all carry invisible habits that weigh us down more than we realize, but you do not have to carry them into tomorrow. The moment you recognize one of these burdens, you are gifted with the choice to set it down. And when you do, something incredible begins to shift. You might find yourself smiling more freely. You might breathe a little easier, sleep a little deeper. You begin to remember what it feels like to truly enjoy life, instead of just enduring it. So, I invite you to ask yourself with gentle honesty, which one of these things have I been doing, thinking it didn't really matter? And what might my life look like? What new freedom might I find if I finally chose to let it go? That simple moment of awareness, of truthfulness with yourself, is where real freedom begins. You have so much life left to live. Don't let outdated habits, old beliefs, or misplaced pride steal another minute of it. You are not alone on this journey. There are so many others just like you, wise, thoughtful, and ready to take the next step toward a better, lighter, and more joyful existence. Thank you for joining us today. We would be honored to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one insight from this discussion that resonated with you, and perhaps one small change you plan to make. Your thoughts and experiences are incredibly valuable to this community, and reading them gives us profound motivation. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please show your support by giving it a like, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell so you never miss what's next.
Your support is what allows us to continue creating meaningful content designed to inform and inspire. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.